Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Today we're doing another video in our structured practice series. If you want to work on major and minor chords, you can check out my previous videos in this playlist. Today we're going to be working on add 2 chords, okay? Some people call them sus2 or add 2 chords. These chords are great for spicing up your playing and adding a little bit more flavor. Okay, so I like to start with a major chord as I'm building these. So a lot of times the way I like to think about them is I take my middle note and I'm actually going to drop it down a whole step, or you basically add a note that's a whole step above the root. So kind of whichever way you want to think about it. But basically these are all variations off of our major chords. So if you haven't learned all of your major chords, go back to the first video in this series and learn all your major chords, because everything else is kind of a variation off of the major chord. Okay, so a C add 2 chord would be C, D, and G. So we added a note that was a whole step above our root, and we still have the 5th, and we basically let go of the 3rd. Now you can play with the 3rd as well. So it's kind of up to your personal taste. So you could play it like this, or you could just play it like this. And there, so that would be called a sus2. With the 3rd, they're basically saying it's the 9, according to my little chord diagram over here. So both of these are good. Another thing I like to do with these chords is, as I'm using the add 2 chord specifically, a lot of times I'll bounce back and forth between the add 2 and the regular 3rd, whether it's major, and these also work on minor chords. So the add 2 is technically neither major or minor until you add the 3rd. So you could add it on the minor chord as well, but it's not really major or minor until you add that 3rd in there. The add 2 is sort of just a neutral type of chord, okay? They work great on major chords though. Minor chords are a little bit more dissonant, right? Like the minor 9. The major 9 is a little bit easier to handle. So we could basically use these chords anytime you see major chord, try adding the 2. And it'll just kind of work like 99% of the time. If you see a chord chart, they're not going to always say add 2. You can assume it though, and just try to add it, see if you like it, right? Okay, let's keep going through these chords. Let's go to the right on our circle of fifths. We'll go to G. So here's our G chord. And to make it an add 2 chord, we're gonna drop the 3rd down a whole step. And now we have G, A, and D, okay? Let's keep going. Let's go to D. Here's our D major chord. Take the 3rd down a whole step. So we're gonna skip F. F would be a half step. E would be our whole step. And our left hand just kind of does what we've been doing, just the root and the 5th. How about an A chord? Well, here's our A. Take the 3rd, and we're dropping it a whole step. And this is kind of how I'm playing it with my hands. 1, 2, and 5. And then I leave my 3rd finger to hit this 3rd if I want to. Remember I said we can bounce back and forth? It's a great little sort of improv technique, okay? Let's go to an E chord. Here's our E chord. We're gonna take the 3rd, drop it down a whole step. Beautiful. Let's go to a B chord. Here's our 3rd. We're gonna drop it there. Beautiful. And it has sort of like a little bit of a dissonant sound, but in a good way. It's just adding a little bit of tension, right? And then when you resolve it, it's that much more satisfying. Music's all about tension and then resolve, back and forth, right? How about F sharp? You got a little bit of tension there with the add 2, and then it can resolve, right? So those are good. What about a C sharp chord? Here's our C sharp major chord. Add 2, goes down a whole step. Looks like that, right? Let's keep going. So we got an A flat chord coming up. A flat is the next chord in our circle of fifths. If we go down from the 3rd a whole step, we get a B flat. And it's good to do this in a sequence. That way you just do the same process over and over, and it becomes very sort of easy to manage if you just take one concept through all 12 keys. E flat is our next chord. We know our E flat chord by now, I hope. And we take that 3rd and we drop it down, skip in the G flat, and we go to F. Because if we just went down a half step, that's our minor chord, right? We know that. Down a whole step is the add 2 chord. Good. What about a B flat chord? Here's our B flat major. And eventually, like if you keep your hands in this shape too, like 1, 3, and 5, it makes it so your index finger is always right by the add 2 chord. So you can just do the index finger on the 2, and then your middle finger or your third finger on the third of the chord. So literally 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Each finger number is on sort of the number of the chord. And it makes it so you can kind of get to these little improv techniques pretty quick. How about the F chord? Here's our F. Drop it down a whole step. The third goes down a whole step. There's our F2. F sus2, right? Very cool. Let's practice this with a metronome. But before we do, I want to give a plug for my Church Piano 101 class. So if this is your first time kind of learning the piano, I actually have a Church Piano 101 course that I've done 10 pre-recorded lessons. They're all about 30 minutes long. In each class, there's a lot of information. It's supposed to take you from not knowing anything about the piano to being able to play in church. So if you'd like to check that out, I actually have a free trial. You can do the first lesson for free. You can click that link below. If you like it, you can go ahead and continue on and get the whole class. But it's definitely a very valuable resource. All right, let's take this add 2 through all 12 keys and make sure we do it in time. So we're going to use a metronome. We're at about 80 beats per minute. And I'll even show you basically going, like with our C chord, going back and forth between the add 2 and then the major chord, because it's a good improv technique in my opinion. So I'm going to go like this. F chord. Let's go B flat. E flat. A flat. D flat, F sharp, B, E, A, D, G, back to C, cool. So those are add 2 chords. I actually have a little PDF that you can download for free if you click the link below. That kind of just reiterates what we talked about with add 2 chords, how to use them and how to build them. So you can check that out. If you'd like to check out the next video in the series, you can just look at this top of the screen here and go to the next step in your piano chord building journey, and you can have a guided practice through all of this. All right. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.